1, 2, 3. I was gonna start this video off with the Bruin A clap, but I don't know it, so we're gonna pretend like I did it. Alright, what is up, you guys? Welcome back to my YouTube channel. I'm here. I hope you're having a great day today. So this is gonna be a very different video from everything else that I've done. I usually do like paintings or me just doing random shit and seeing where that leads. But I am starting school in 2 weeks. Yeah, I start school the 27th. I'm gonna be at UCLA. Woo woo! I know, it's crazy. Who would have thought that my dumb ass would make it in there? So that's what I'm gonna be talking about today. I wanted to make a video just talking about like tips and tricks on how I got into everywhere that I applied to. So that way I can help you guys, because I know right now is a very stressful time for a lot of you guys, because it is the time where you guys start doing all of your college applications, which I've been there, trust me. I know how stressful this fucking is, believe me. Without further ado, I'm just gonna go ahead and do this video and give you guys tips, so let's go. So first of all, I'm gonna talk about the colleges that I applied to and the majors that I got in for them. So I applied to Cal Poly SLO, which is Cal Poly San Luis Obispo, for architecture. I got into Cal Poly Pomona, also for architecture. UCLA for visual arts. I got into UC Berkeley for architecture, for UC Davis for landscape architecture, and then UC Santa Cruz for film. Okay, fun fact, when everyone starts getting their acceptances in like March-ish, April, March, it's around that time when colleges start saying like, oh, you're in, or you're not in. Don't panic if you haven't heard anything and all your friends are hearing stuff, because a lot of my friends had already received like 2 or 3 from like a lot of other schools, and I had heard nothing. So I was freaking the fuck out. When that time comes around, don't be scared. They take a while. Okay, so I'm going to talk quickly about my grades so you guys can get an idea of who I was as a person and kind of talk about everything that I did throughout high school. So first, yes, I will admit that I was a pretty good student. I was top 1% of my class. I believe I was ranked 4. I was ranked 1 for like a couple of years, for like freshman and sophomore year, but then junior year I went down to like 2, and then I got like a B, and I don't know. So I was top 1%, that's all I know. My SAT score was 1370, which is actually not that high considering where I got into like UCLA. Like 1370 is I think like the average, or like the lowest average, something like that. For SAT it was like 760 for math, which I'm actually really good at math. Like I took AP Calculus and I got a 4 on it, and 610 on English. English is pretty crappy. I actually did not pass the English writing exam for the UC system. So if me, remember, if I can't even meet the basic writing requirements to get in, and I was able to get into UCLA, hopefully that gives you hope. My ACT score was like a 23, maybe 24, probably 23, because I was really bad at it. Again, that is freaking low considering that UCLA's ACT is like, the ACT score is like a 30 to 34. I was 23, so I was nowhere near that. And for their SAT scores, their average was somewhere around like a 1400. I can't remember. So I was like pretty low on it. For clubs, I was actually in a shit ton of clubs. I was president of Best Buddies, I was president of IB Art Club, I was an officer for French Club, I was in Octagon, which is a community service club. I was an Upward Bound, EAOP, I was an IB Diploma candidate, I did a shit ton of community service, I did YouTube and Instagram and art on the side, I worked with my dads on the weekends, and I was in tennis for 3 years. I think that was everything. Okay, so now that I gave you guys a bunch of shit about myself, now I'm going to actually talk about tips to get in. So if you're a freshman, sophomore, junior, I highly recommend you guys start. If you're a freshman, sophomore, junior, I highly recommend you guys join a club. The more the merrier, but honestly it's better to stick to like 1 or 2 clubs that you're really involved in, and that you know you eventually hopefully have an officer position, whether that be secretary, historian, president, co-president, vice president. Like, just join a club as early as you can, so that way you can start developing skills, leadership. And that way when you start to writing your applications, you can write down, I've been in this club for X amount of years. And usually the more years you've been in a club, that shows more commitment, that shows that you're able to time manage because you have a club. So I recommend you guys do join a club as early as possible. If you're already a senior, you can join a club, but it doesn't really look as good if you were to say, oh yeah, I barely joined this club this year, because it kind of just shows that you're just joined the club. So that way you can write it down on your college acceptance, and that's not really good, just saying. So yeah, just join early as possible. For me, that was Best Buddies. I joined the freshman year, and since then I was able to like move up positions throughout the years. Also, I recommend you guys do a lot of community service, whether that be whether that be at your church, which is what I would do a lot, and join a club. For me, our school had this thing called Octagon, which is now called Junior Optimist. So see if you have any volunteer clubs at your school, because those are honestly really, really good, because they already have like a bunch of resources for you to go to. For me, I did like the Rose Bowl, we did the Lunar Festival, we have like a Christmas thing here in our city, the Mission Inn. I don't know if any of y'all heard of that. We had community service there. So definitely join clubs at school that offer community service, because they usually have really good resources to go and do really good events. And if you have like a specific major in mind, I recommend you guys do community service in that field. One of my really close friends, Gina, she wants to be I think she wants to be like a doctor or something, I'm not sure. So she would volunteer at the hospital, and that really helped her get into college too. Next tip I want to say is remember that academics aren't everything. A lot of colleges, they care about academics, but it's not like the #1 priority, except for like the Cal State systems, like Cal Poly. Those you just input your grades and then they determine if you get in or not. But if your school offers a writing portion, then that usually means that grades aren't weighed as heavily. I'm not saying to, not care about grades, because like I said, I was like a really good person on paper. Definitely do try in school and, make sure that you have like pretty good grades, but you don't have to be like top of your class to get into places, because like I said, my friend Gina, the one who volunteered at the hospital, she wasn't top of her class at all. I don't even know what rank she's in. I don't want to ask her because I don't want to be rude. But she wasn't top of her class. She wasn't in the IB diploma candidate, in the IB diploma thing, which is a program at her school, which was like the elite, whatever the fuck. It was just pretty much like really, really advanced classes. She just took like a couple of advanced classes here and there, did a lot of community service, was involved in like advocacy. So she had her own involvements that wasn't necessarily academics. She did tennis for all 4 years, and she was also able to get into UCLA, which, oh, by the way, I don't know if you guys know this, but UCLA was actually the most applied to school in the nation. I think like 140,000 people applied, and from those 140,000, only like 14,000 got in. Really freaking competitive, and Gina was able to get in, and she wasn't even top of her class. So, like I said, do have hope. Don't think, oh my god, I got a B or I got 2 B's, they want to accept me. Like, I got a B in art. I got a B in art, and I still got in. Also, just because you have high grades, that doesn't necessarily guarantee that you'll get in everywhere. My last tip, the writing portion, which is honestly, in my opinion, the most important part. Writing portion will usually greatly help determine if you'll get into a place or not, in my opinion. At least that worked for me. Again, also, all of the things that I'm saying, that is all just my opinion, so do take everything with a grain of salt. I highly recommend you guys start writing your things now. For the UC system, so like UCLA, UC Berkeley, UC whatever the fuck you want to go into, their deadline is like November 30th or something like that. So I recommend you guys start writing them now. For the UC systems, what they do is they give you 8 prompts, where they just like really basic questions, like write about a time you show leadership, write about a time you overcame a struggle. They're just like really like basic questions like that, okay? So they give you 8 of them. I would recommend you pick 5, maybe 6 if you can, but at least 5 prompts that you really like, and just write. That's what I would do. I would just write. I wouldn't care about the grammar. I wouldn't care about that, because honestly, with stuff like this, the content is more important than the actual writing. Does that make sense? Like, what you write about is a lot more important than like the grammar and shit. Like, sure, like, don't get me wrong, like, they do want you to make sure that you have proper grammar and that everything flows or whatever, and that you don't like misspell like fucking cat or whatever. Like, they want to make sure that you have writing abilities, but they care more about the story you tell and how you tell it. I highly recommend you guys just start writing now. Make sure that you have like a good idea of what you want to write about, more than like worry about getting your message and your idea out first before you start getting into the technical of the grammar, the punctuation and shit like that. That part should be last. What you should worry about at the beginning is the content, what you're going to be writing about. What I recommend is being as open and vulnerable as you can. I recommend you guys go talk to someone who you're pretty close to. For me, that was one of my teachers. I would go to that teacher and just write down a list of things about myself and just start writing. be as open and vulnerable as you can with these. Again, I cannot stress this enough, because a lot of people, when they write these, they pretty much bullshit the entire fucking thing, and it triggers me. Because they just pretty much write a story that a college would want to hear. And no, fuck that. Don't do that. Write about your story, okay? Yours. Yes, you, the person watching. Don't write about your fucking Janet's story. Don't write a basic ass generic story that anyone could write, anyone could do. Be really personal about it, because they want to see you. Because before that, they have like all of your numbers and all of your statistics and everything. Like, sure, they got you. They can see how well you are on paper, but they want to see you for who you really are. And in these essays, don't write about your fucking grades and talk about, oh, I got a 5 on AP whatever. Oh, no, don't talk about academics in your essays. I fucking hate when people do that. 1, you sound cocky and pretentious as fuck. 2, you sound stupid as fuck, because you're pretty much just repeating the same thing. The colleges already have all of your transcripts and all of that thing, so why do they need to read it again? Don't write about that. Write about yourself. Write about yourself. Don't write about your family, because that's what a lot of people would do. A lot of people write about, oh, how great my mom is. My mom would do this for me. My mom blah 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 blah. Yes, talk about your family, but don't make it about them. Make it about you. Y-O-W. Y-O-U. You. Yes, you. Okay? This application is about you. Be as open and vulnerable as you can, because colleges can usually tell when someone's bullshitting, and when they're writing about, they can usually tell when you're writing in a way to impress them, because you just sound really bland, and you sound pretentious, and you pretty much have no character. For me, I wrote about like my own personal struggles and something that was about me. Write it in a way that when people read it, they know automatically, oh yeah, this is blank, this is you. Don't write it slowly and people read it, they'll be like,
oh, I know like 7 people who also wrote about this.
No, make this about you. So yeah, definitely be open and vulnerable, but don't make it a sob story either, because then you just sound like a little, I'm sorry if I offend you, but you just sound like a whining brat. You sound like a little bitch. Let me take that back. Yes, write about a shitty time in your life. Definitely write about that shitty time in your life. Did you have depression throughout high school? Did you have some medical conditions? Did anything happen in your family? Did your father have an affair? Did your parents get divorced? Did you get raped? Which I know that sounds really, really shitty to talk about, but if that was a significant part of your life and you feel comfortable writing about it, write about it. But don't make it a sob story. Yes, definitely build up to it. Like at the beginning, talk about how shitty it was, how it affected you, how it affected your grades, how it affected your mentality. But at the end, always make sure to talk about how you rose up from it. But at the end, always make sure to bring it back to you. Talk about how you grew, how you matured from this, what you learned from it, and talk about how you're going to use that experience and how you use it to grow and blossom and whatnot, you know? So like for me, for example, one of them, I wrote a pretty basic essay about how in French class, I skipped a whole year of French in order to get into IB French. Which, to make a long story short, I only took 1 year French, and then from that 1 year French, I decided to take a college level French. Which is fucking stupid of me because I'm not good at French at all, but I was able to manage it and talk about my struggles. And at the end, I was like, now I know that if I work hard, I can get through anything. So it's not like a really basic story, but I talked about myself and how it affected me personally. At the end, I talked about how I was able to grow, how I was able to mature from this, how I was able to use this for other courses in other parts of life. So yeah, definitely make sure you do that. Also, with your essays, make sure you get a lot of people to read it. For me, I would literally just like hand them out to everyone. But when you hand them out to people, make sure that you only hand out 1 copy at a time. So let's say you have a teacher named Miss Yellow and Miss Blue, and then you have like Mr. Red. Give a paper to Miss Yellow, have her write and scribble over it, give it back to you, you revise it, you give it to Mr. Blue, or Miss Blue, whatever, get it back, and you hand it to another teacher. So that way you only hand out 1 copy at a time, because if you give the same copy to multiple people at the same time, so let's say you give the same paper to Yellow and Red, then when you get the paper back, it's going to be really hard to revise it, because let's say Miss Yellow said, oh, don't write about this, but then Red says, write about this, then you're going to have two different things and it's going to be really hard to do it. So I just recommend you guys do one copy at a time, but have multiple people read it. Have a lot of people read it, because the more people read it, the more people can do that, the more you're able to fill in gaps. Because let's say you thought you wrote like a good story that told you, let's say you thought you wrote a good essay, but then you give it to a person and it makes absolutely no sense to them and they're completely lost because you missed like one little thing. Also with your essays, make sure that you don't write about the same thing for each one of them, because I know a lot of people write about like the same story but just rewritten 4 different times. Like, make sure that each story is completely different. It's okay to have like some theme throughout, like I would talk about like family and art in all of them, but that wasn't like a main thing that I focused on each one of them. It was just like kind of like a little thing sprinkled in there so that way they got the message that family and art are really important to me. Make sure that, yeah, you know, like each essay has its own topic. That's all the things I have for this. I hope that this video was helpful for you guys. I know for me it was really helpful when I watched a lot of YouTube videos about stuff like this, or just talking to people in general. So if you guys have any questions about my experience, do make sure to leave them down in the description. Down in the comments, my bad. Ask me literally anything. Also, I'm going to be doing a video soon about my portfolio and how I was able to get into UCLA. So if you want to watch that, stay tuned, hit that like and subscribe buttons. Hit that subscribe button and that bell thing so that way you get notified when I post it. Also, I have merch. Click down if you want to shop. Yeah, that's all I have. I hope you guys like this. I love you and stay peaceful.